Hey, everybody, and welcome. Just so you know, as you join, I have everybody muted automatically. Once we get everyone in here, we'll unmute. I just kind of wanted, for sake of getting everybody in, wanted to make sure that we didn't have any like weird echoes or anything. And I'm just going to keep an eye on the waiting room. All right, and to those of you just joining, you will be muted upon entry. We don't have to stay muted. I just wanted to make sure that we could get everybody in without weird feedback loops. All right. So let me. It seems like if you all want to, you can go ahead and unmute if you prefer just to listen in on this. That's totally fine too. And I will try not to be too very distracted by keeping an eye on the people who are just joining us. But welcome everyone. I'm super excited to hopefully momentarily be able to see your faces and hear from you. And like I said, if you would like to turn on your camera and unmute, that would be great. You certainly don't have to. A couple of more notes as we get started and have some more people join. This session is being recorded. This is not, typically for the webinars, those go live on YouTube. This is not live on YouTube. And when I post the video, when I post the recording, it also won't be publicly available on YouTube. The way I typically do it, it's on my channel and I will just make it available privately for those of us within the group to be able to watch as needed. But with all of these, particularly these review sessions, this is intended to be a safe space. So if, as we're going through some of these questions or, whatever these conversations are, this is going to be focused on reviewing. But if for any reason, when we are wrapping up, if you would prefer that this session not be posted, then certainly let me know. I can't imagine that, we would have anything like scandalous or anything like that happen in here, but I do want it to be, an opportunity for all of you to speak freely and to feel safe doing so. So just know that this we'll have it recorded. It will be on the website. If for any reason it should not be on the website, you can reach out to me privately and let me know. And then if nothing else, I can just send out a list or something of here are the review questions and some of the answers. So with that, I was looking at our review session questions. It looks like I have one anonymous question, but if you all don't mind, I always hated this in school when we'd have to go around and introduce ourselves, but yet as an adult, I find myself asking people to do this. But for a lot of you, this is my first time actually being able to see you and talk to you. So I would love it if we can go around and I can, what I'll probably do is just call on you like as you show up in my grid. And if you don't mind unmuting and just letting us know your name, maybe where you're from, and maybe something quick about why you wanted to get involved in beer judging. So I have got, is it Chantal?
Chantel.
Chantal, perfect. I will let you go first because you're like the first person on my screen.
I had to jump in early so I wouldn't forget. So I'm Chantel Melton. I'm in South Carolina, about halfway between Charlotte and Columbia. So I have lots of awesome breweries around me and some that are new. And we'll leave it there. And I thought it would be cool to learn to be a beer judge because I spend so much time at the breweries and I have so many friends now that are home brewers and they're always talking about entering their stuff. And a friend of mine had me start helping him homebrew a couple of years ago. So I don't have any of my own equipment, but I always help him now. So I just thought it would be really interesting when you put up I didn't even know how to go about it. And then when you put up the invitation to the class, I was like, yep, that's me. So here I am.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chantal. And then I think it's Jackie is next, Musgrave.
Hi everyone. I'm Jackie. I'm based in Australia, so I'm in Brisbane. And I came across this, I think probably on Instagram or something like that. And I was most interested in it for two reasons. One, it's because it was kind of female focused, which I really appreciated. It's great to see more women get involved in beer. I write about beer and am studying for my certified Cicerone. So that sort of parallel between learning more about the styles is a really handy sort of addition to studying for Cicerone, and be nice to sort of get involved in judging just to give a little bit back to the current, sort of the beer community.
Excellent. Well, thank you. What time is it for you right now?
It's 9 a.m.
Oh, okay. Okay. So not too terrible.
No, perfectly
Okay.
civilized.
Excellent. Good. I see Enid next.
Hi, I'm Enid. I'm in the western part of Washington State, and I've done a little bit of beer judging, but I wanted to be certified. I wanted to be kind of official because maybe as we've all experienced, as a woman beer judge, you kind of need to have like this piece of paper to back you up to make your other judges kind of respect you a little bit. But also I like the BJC program because as a home brewer, I appreciate getting those notes back. So I feel like this is kind of a way I can give back to that a little bit.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. And next I see Shelby.
Hi, I'm Shelby. I live in Western Minnesota, and I decided to join just so I could learn some descriptive terms just for my own appreciation, to move beyond beer flavored beer, and then hopefully we're in rural area, but maybe find some opportunities to do some beer judging out here.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Shelby. And Bonnie, you're up next.
Good evening, ladies. It's so exciting to see so many faces from around the world. This is so cool. So I met Jen actually in Charlotte. So I currently live in Winston-Salem. So Chantel, not too far from you. And yes, we have a great line of breweries. Originally from Massachusetts, again, another great brewery scene. I was kind of studying for my basic Cicerone. I homebrew. I'm part of a homebrew club, but have gone to some training sessions with Jen. Love her. She's a rock star. So when I saw this come up, I was like, maybe this is better suited for me. I thought maybe I would part-time work in a brewery, but I have to say, I think I'm a little old, believe it or not. I feel like, to get behind behind the counter at a brewery, I kind of feel like it's a little tough to do that on a part-time basis at my age. So I think that the judging is actually a better route for me. So I'm really excited to move this forward. So thanks for doing it, Jen.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. It's great to see you again. And Stephanie Santos, I have you next.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Stephanie and I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I want to take this because I just want to learn better descriptors. I've been obsessed with homebrewing for the past year or so, and just kind of want to get better at recognizing the beer styles for my own and at bars with friends and at breweries. So yeah, super excited to be here and learn all this awesome information. It's been so fun. It's been great so far.
Awesome. And do you enter your homebrews in competitions?
I just started, so I'm getting to that point where I can enter soon. So
excellent. Very cool. All right. So next I have Sally.
Hi, my name is Sally, and I currently live in Washington, DC. And I guess my motivation for joining and taking this training is that, beer drinking and finding good craft brews has always been a hobby. But as a person who, for my day job at least, is a biologist, I really like taking my hobbies up to the nerdiest possible level. And as I think Enid mentioned, I really like the sort of focus on bringing women to the table as part of my job and being part of those scientific societies. I'm super involved in initiatives to bring women to like those decision-making tables amongst scientific societies and whatnot. So I really appreciate the efforts taken here to do so with this hobby that's becoming a very important part of my life. And again, it shouldn't have to be the case that we know all the fancy vocab and have this piece of paper to prove that we belong at said table, whatever that table is, but that is often the case, I found, in many aspects of my life. So happy to get those skills and then necessary cred, so to speak.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sally. Next I have Angelica. Nice to see you again.
Hi, everybody. So I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm a certified beer server and have set a goal to take at least the written part of the certified Cicerone by the end of the year. So that's mostly why I started taking this. I have taken BJCP classes in the past, but I figure, repeating the information can only help. And it's been a couple of years. So I am a home brewer. I've been doing it for about 8 years. And I have entered competitions before and have gotten some good feedback and some really bad feedback. And I'm just trying to be one of the good ones. So.
I feel that so hard. All right, Rachel, I have you next.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I was living in Portland and I just sold my house. And so I'm on the road a bit, traveling around in my travel trailer and surfing. I started home brewing 4 years ago when I was in Tunisia out of necessity. And then I just became obsessed with it when I came back to the States. And with that obsession, I just wanted to learn more and more. And then, becoming a beer judge, I'm like, oh, this is so exciting because then you can talk to everybody else and get their input and feedback. And then just through this course of study, I've learned so much. And there was, things like lagers. I'm like, oh, I hate that. I never liked it. And now I have such a greater appreciation for it. And then my little crazy dream is that I can become a beer judge and then like go overseas and travel to different places and be a beer judge overseas because I love to travel.
That's awesome. And, I do know, I'm hoping for one of our sessions or at some point having Sandy Cockerham come on and hang out with everybody. So she's the highest ranked BJCP judge who is a woman, and she also travels extensively. So she's been to Australia, South America. I feel like she's also been to Europe a few times. So it's definitely possible to be like this world beer judge traveler. All right. Thank you, Rachel. Tamara, I have you next.
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm here honestly because I love just learning about things, and I have a nerdy interest in being more articulate and being able to do a better job discussing like what I taste. And I run a bottle shop, so I'm already pretty familiar with a lot of the styles, but not every single specific breakdown. And so I wanted to learn more about those, and I've been working kind of lackadaisically towards my certified Cicerone. So this just seemed like the perfect, way to study for that and to go ahead and jump in and start judging competitions. And yeah, those were my general interests. And then more specifically, I got COVID about 5 months ago, and I completely lost all of my taste and smell, and they are improving. It was like real slow, and then I had kind of a rapid return where I got a lot of sensation back, but I'm still somewhat limited. And I've realized that, hopefully the rest of it will come back, but it might not. And I was procrastinating moving forward with my studies because, I was hoping for everything to come back. And I just finally realized that if I wait, like maybe it'll be forever, like maybe this is all I have. So figure I better go ahead and start relearning and recalibrating. So this class has been, or this group has been really helpful to that. So thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thank you for sharing that. I know I've spoken with another woman on her Cicerone journey who has had something similar and had the same kind of concern. So I think that's awesome and very commendable that like the mindset of just, starting and seeing how it goes and also being able to calibrate. That's very smart. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Sarah Parker, I see you next.
Right. Hi, guys. I'm in Atlanta, and I've been involved in homebrewing for a while, and I heard about this class through the homebrew club I belong to. Somebody shared, and it's something it came at a good time. I'd often thought I wanted to maybe sort of formalize my knowledge and have just less of a loose and vague feel for styles. And, you know, I'd been out of work, and so I had time, and this was free. So it kind of worked out. And, you know, I've helped out at some of the local competitions, you know, stewarding, and, you know, sometimes people would ask, oh, are you here to judge? And so I guess now, you know, I can maybe towards saying yes.
That's awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Emily, I have you next. Emily Nichols.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm actually also in Washington State. I saw Enid on here as well. I am going for my certified Cicerone, hopefully by the end of the year. So that's kind of why I was planning this. I saw it on Pink Boots because I am also trying to start my own brewery up here. We're hoping to open next year. So at that point, I want to get my name out there a little bit and beer judge and Cicerone and everything else. So that's kind of why I'm here.
Awesome. And, you know, I found with particularly like brewery owners, the ones who are involved with things like beer judging, you're often involved with homebrewers. You know, most of competitions we'll be judging are going to be homebrew competitions, and it's a super great way to like really build that solid community within your, you know, within your beer community. And so I think that's a fantastic thing to do. I know especially in Charlotte, so many of the breweries like grew up out of like the homebrew clubs and also the competitions, and they have like a very loyal, very like fiercely loyal following among the beer judges. So yeah, I think that's a great plan of action. Yoshi, I have you next.
Hi. What are the questions?
Your name, where you're located, and why you joined.
Yes, my name is Josie. In New Jersey, and I joined this because it was a dream of mine for a long time to do BJCP. And as we all know, it's kind of difficult. It's really good to have the support. I have been with Jen now for probably a whole year.
Yeah, almost.
Doing all sorts of training and education, Cicerone beer server, and now also certified Cicerone, and now this, and hopefully many more things. So it's really excited to see that community grow. And I feel that last year, when all this started for also Road to 100 was the first time that I also felt within a community of women homebrewers and in all this. So that is very difficult in this area, I would say, for myself at least. So it has been really amazing to not feel alone and feel supported. So yes, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Danielle, I see you next.
Hi, my name's Danielle. I'm in Central Florida. I just started home brewing this year, so I'm really new at it, but I came across this class on Instagram. I saw something shared about it, and I just thought it would be a really good way to learn about different beer styles and expand my knowledge and connect with more women who like beer, because I don't have many friends who like beer, unfortunately, to go to breweries with or anything like that. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm enjoying it.
Excellent. Thank you, Danielle. Yoshi, I see you next.
Hi, my name is Miyoshi. I'm based in Toronto, Canada. I found out about this program through Jen, actually, because like Josie, I've been with you for about a year now. Side note, excellent in all of your mentorship, by the way, personal note. As for why I wanted to get into this, I'm a neuroscientist by trade, so I like how things interconnect. I tend to be a little neurotic with figuring out how things work, that sort of thing. Being wanted to be a beer judge specifically because although I live in one of the most diverse cities in the world, when it comes to beer, it is very much dominated by white men. And here in particular, we have had women who have shied away from being beer judges because they don't see themselves represented, especially women of color. So I hope to change that.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so next I see Rita.
Hello, I am from Tijuana, Mexico. I started to take this course because I wasn't, sorry, my English is not so good. I am a home brewer and I am in the Tijuana Homebrew Club. And from another member, I hear about Jen and the woman Beer Summit, and that is why I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
Catherine V.
Hi, yeah, I'm Catherine Villa. I am in Denver, Colorado, and I heard about this through Pink Boots Society. I'm here doing this. I kind of ended up in a weird way. After I graduated from college a couple of years back, my parents decided they wanted to start a brewery. So my dad has been in the industry for 30 plus years. And so I kind of went from no knowledge of brewing or beer to his assistant brewer overnight. And he's taught me a lot about why he does the things he does when it comes to brewing. But I just felt that I needed a lot more when it comes to learning about all of the different styles. And yeah, so I once I saw you post about this, I thought it was a great opportunity and I jumped at it. And one thing that he's mentioned is he's been a beer judge too for since the early 90s. And he's been saying that, there needs to be more women involved and just some better judges overall too. So I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for doing this for free, especially. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Is your dad Keith?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Super cool. Yeah, I need to get out to your brewery when I'm out there. So I actually, I didn't judge with him at National Homebrew Comp, but we lunched together one day. And so that's really cool. And he had mentioned that he was, that you were brewing with him.
Yeah, he's taught me all sorts of good stuff, but I only learn about the beer stuff that we brew, so I need to expand that knowledge.
Right. Okay, so next I see Sheena. You're muted.
There we go. I was like, wait a minute. Hi, everyone. I'm Sheena. I'm from Ontario, Canada. I've been trying to get into the industry. I used to work in pharma. And pretty much everything, from making pharmaceuticals to being in the chemistry lab. And I've been homebrewing ever since university. So I've been interested in, because in Ontario, when I was in school, we didn't have as many craft beers as you would expect, like you guys have in the States. So, you had to make it. And in order to make it, you had to learn about it. And both my partner and I being, in the sciences, we absolutely, loved it. And it was the opportunity for us to get together and geek out and nerd out about everything. So we really enjoyed that, love doing water chemistry and figuring out everything as much as we can, and using technology when we can. And then now I'm actually working for Escarpment Labs. So it's the least liquid supplier and bacteria in Canada. And we service everywhere, but yeah, we're from Canada. And I write for Brewers Journal Canada for the homebrew section. And I'm part of the homebrew club there. So I've been working my way to get into this industry, and now I'm finally in it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been exciting. It's new. It's happened since March, end of March. So it's very new.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah, I love Escarpment. I was just recommending there, and actually for anybody on here, Escarpment's YouTube channel is so great. Every webinar that you all do is just fantastic. There are some that I think I've watched like 4 or 5 times.
I know, it's like, seriously, like what you see on there is what we experience every day. Like we're just a bunch of nerds just like geeking it out.
Right.
So
Nice.
it's so much fun. Yeah, we worked with like the university like close to us in the same city. So like we're always like gaining new information and accessing the resources there, and getting as much as we can in terms of research done. But yeah, like Miyoshi is actually the one who introduced this course to me. So thank you, Miyoshi.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you so much for offering this, because like I find that I've helped judge, like I'm we have beer sommelier here, so I don't know if you've ever heard of that, like the Perdome courses. So I've gotten up to the sommelier. We get to learn as much as you can there, and that's what I wanted to do, is to expand like my vocab and what I'm tasting, and being able to pick out those off flavors. And I find with BJCP you get to actually delve deeper into that a little bit more. So like I'm finding that like an extra practice. So being able to get and be better at what we're doing, and being able to, when we're analyzing like different yeasts and stuff at work and we're doing taste there, it's like I want to be able to pull those things out and actually put a lot of vocabulary to that.
Right. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Sheena. Definitely. Michelle. Maybe Michelle.
I'm coming, Jen.
There you go.
Okay. Sorry, I'm in the middle of cooking. So, hey, I'm Michelle. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, here with Jen. Why did I get into this? So many reasons. The biggest one is, as a Black woman, I wanted to increase the representation of Black women in beer, but not only as drinkers, but as someone who can speak on it and be part of everything that there is to be a part of. So I'm actually studying this along with my certified Cicerone. And a couple of things I hope to do with it is to get more into education. We started a group here in Atlanta, Craft Women Connect, and it's started by Black women. It's open to everyone, but we wanted the face to be Black women because, again, we want to increase our representation in the industry and in the craft beer world. So I would love to gain the knowledge to help women become better beer drinkers and also become judges and cicerones and just make it happen. So that's really the main reason I'm here. And it's good to see everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. So Ashley Randolph, I see you next.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have been having like Zoom from hell this week, and then I got locked out of my laptop, and so I apologize, but we're just going to roll with it. My name is Ashley Randolph. I am a very, very proud African-American woman of color, and also very, very proud Pink Boots chapter leader here in Las Vegas. And I am a voracious student. I never can learn enough about things that I'm passionate about, which obviously beer is one of them. And just really quickly, as we expand our membership categories here in Pink Boots, I'm having more and more conversations with especially younger ladies that may work in a bar or something like that, and they're feeling intimidated, like, I don't know enough beer, or I'm not cool enough to be in Pink Boots. I kind of have to prove myself. And so I encourage them to take opportunities such as this that you have so graciously offered to us all, Jen, and thank you so much. But I can never know enough. I'm getting older. Some things I forget. So I'm like, oh, yeah, that's how that works. So this has been fantastic. And on Saturday, I was at a Meet the Brewer event with Beechwood. They were here in town in Vegas, and I was having a lovely conversation with their head brewer, Julian, and an avid home brewer fan who fits that stereotypical overweight Caucasian, hairy, bearded male, interrupted me after he questioned if I worked at a brewery, and when I told him that I am a brand ambassador for Duvel and Ommegang. interrupted me and goes, "Oh, well, I see why they hired you because you're very pretty." And before I could catch myself, I literally said, "No, I got hired because I know my shit and I know what the hell I'm talking about." So having opportunities such as this is why I am rooted when unfortunately I have to defend myself and the space that I have rightfully earned in this community. As Sally mentioned earlier, you know, like, unfortunately we have to prove ourselves and have the education to back it up.
Yes, and I am sorry that that happened to you, but I love that you had a very quick, very true response. So thank you, Ashley, for sharing that. And next I see Miyabi.
Hey, hello everybody. I'm located in a small town near Vancouver, and I just moved to here from Taiwan before the pandemic. So I barely have friends here, so let alone be a friend. But actually why I'm here today is a very kind brewer friend of mine introduced me. She is Natalia. I don't see her here today. And I used to work, so my first experience with beer judge event was when I lived in Tokyo, Japan. Just because I know a little bit of English and Japanese, I was recruited as an interpreter in one Asia Beer Challenge. But that was like hell for me because I noticed very quickly that judges from all over the world seem to have their own language. So what do you need me here for? And I was panicked. That was like 7 or 8 years ago. And I used to work for wine, whiskey, and Japanese sake industry, but I only drink beer just for fun. So I couldn't make up my mind enrolling any kind of beer lessons or beer judge thing, because I think, why do I need that as a consumer? But since I'm super new to this city and I need friends, maybe in the future when I'm able to, I want a job. So this is why.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, thank you for sharing that and welcome. And we moved from Charlotte, like fully relocated from Charlotte to Atlanta in October. So we're just now starting to go out and do things, but we have no idea where like there are any restaurants around us unless they deliver. So I feel moving to a new city and not knowing anybody, and also then not being able to go out and explore at all. So yeah, I can relate with that. All right, so Razia, I have you next.
Hi, I apologize for like the loud printing in the background. I'm like printing out a practice exam. So Razia Gonzalez, I'm based here in Charlotte. I've known Jen for like 3, probably going on 4 years now. We both used to work together at Pilot, and from there kind of started a lot of my BJCP beer judging experiences. She kind of just, was like, just go do it and stop being so scared to do it. I think for a really long time, a lot of what kept me from kind of growing in this space is a lot of, what everyone has already spoken to, just feeling like you don't fit in, feeling like you need to know absolutely every single thing there is, because it's, my experiences has been, if men find out you like beer, they're going to grill you on every aspect of it. I've been a home brewer for 11 years now, professional for 3. And then I'm sitting for my certified exam in August. I've previously taken the certified Cicerone exam. I passed my tasting portion, but not my written exam. And I'm hoping that a lot of the BJCP piece is really going to help fill kind of the gap with the beer styles. There's just so much of it that, there is to learn, and kind of learning in smaller bite-sized pieces alongside a lot of women who are also really excited and feeling welcome in that space, I think has been more empowering than all of the studying I've done by myself. Tamara is also one of my study buddies here in Charlotte. And it's interesting that she mentioned her sensory being different and kind of, losing a lot of those senses. But when we were tasting beer together a couple of weeks ago, she was able to pinpoint things that I didn't necessarily pick up, which was interesting. So, learning from others has been such a helpful thing, especially through all of this. And I'm just really excited to be able to kind of work through the next couple of weeks and sit for an in-person judging here in Charlotte.
Excellent. Thank you, Razia. And we just have a couple more people. So Angela, you're next.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I'm from Ottawa, Canada. I recently got a job at a microbrewery doing assistant brewing and also working as a packaging tech. I was originally supposed to be a server, but we've been in lockdown, so that's just not a thing. So I've been quickly learning back of housework at a brewery for the very first time. And my workplace is really awesome. They encouraged me to seek further education in the field if I was going to keep doing this. And so, yeah, one of them put me onto this, and it's been really great so far to learn and just have a better understanding of the product that I'm working with.
Excellent. Thank you. So Ashley Hale.
Yeah. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome too. Yeah, so my name is Ashley, and I live in Washington and work for a hop breeding company out here. So basically, I brew a pale ale beer to kind of really showcase the experimental hops coming out of our breeding program, but I don't have a lot of experience with other beer styles. I do have a background in fermentation science and stuff, but I don't really have like the commercial experience and things. Never worked in like a commercial brewery. So just definitely lacking some knowledge there. And I'm supposed to be running like a sensory program as well and things like that. And then we also bring on summer interns and teach them how to brew, and they're asking me about brewing all these crazy styles and things. And I just sometimes like don't really have a lot of answers. And I think someone had recommended the Cicerone course, but then one of our kind of brewing partners, friends over in Seattle, recommended taking this course. And yeah, kind of similar to what the other ladies have been saying, just like, maybe feeling intimidated and things like that. So definitely, Jen, your course has made it more accessible to me, like it feels like, and just like more of a reality. And I also like, it does keep me motivated to sign in every week and learn the styles and actually study and things like that. If I'm like doing it with other people and stuff. So so basically just trying to make a dream a full-on reality and stuff, because I think it's been 2 years now since I've been thinking about getting involved in this. So so thank you so much, Jen. for making
definitely
this happen. And and it's nice to meet all you other ladies and hear your backgrounds and where you're coming from as well. So it like gets me jazzed and excited to talk all things beer. So
Nice, very nice. And then last but not least, we have Carlos. Maybe. All right. Well, Carlos, if you get a chance to unmute and want to introduce yourself, you are more than welcome to. When I was first like, let's all do introductions, there was like 9 of us here. So that took a little bit longer, but I really enjoy being able to hear from all of you, and I hope you enjoyed it as well, because I like being able to put names and locations and everything to faces. So like I mentioned, I have there was one response submitted through the Google form. If what I thought we can do is if people have questions, let's try at first unmuting and asking, and then if we need to go to like raising hands, we can do that as well, because the one question that I got, I can cover it at the end. I really want to make sure that I'm giving enough time to everybody who has questions. So I will open it up for whoever wants to go first. Oh, and the other rule is that when you unmute, you're not allowed to say sorry and then start talking. I was on a call the other day with it was, you know, a group of women, and every time one of us would unmute and start to talk, we'd be like, oh, sorry. And I was like, okay, yes, Razia, we're starting a sorry jar. So don't do that, but otherwise everything else is open. You know, the first 6 weeks of what we've covered. If you have any questions about the BJCP exam, about preparing for your certified Cicerone exam, anything like that, that's what we're here to talk about. So I will stop talking at you all because you have that every week. So whoever would like to go first.
I have a question.
Yes.
Josie. Can you remind us how long before we should be taking the online exam? Because I did bought like the 3 package, but since I'm gonna be taking it in Charlotte with one of your groups, I'm like, ooh, when is the latest I can do that?
You know, I need to look that up for sure. And I know I meant to a couple of weeks ago, but in theory, you can take it when you come into the exam. You should have your certificate that says that you passed. So I believe in theory, you could take it up to like the day before. Don't do that, but let me double check, and I will include that in this week's email to everybody. But I think it's really, you just have to like acknowledge when you are registering that you have to pass that first exam.
Okay.
So let me make this note so that way.
It's the online part doesn't happen like the rest of the exams where it's somebody grading it, right? Like it's volunteers doing it. The online is already a system. So therefore, the same day that I take it and pass it, I'll get that certificate, right?
Correct. Yes, that's
Okay.
absolutely right. So yeah, it's very similar in that structure to the
Cicerone.
certified beer server. Yes. So you will get your results automatically. And with the BJCP, you can take the test once a day until
Okay.
you pass. So you can't, like take it 3 times in one day. I don't believe. I think you have
Okay.
to, you have like, as you can take it as many times as you'd like, but you can only take it once a day.
Okay.
If you're asking me, and Yossi, you know that I am a big fan of artificial deadlines, I would plan to take it. So we're wrapping up our 14-week study sessions, like I think the first full week of August, first or second full week of August. I would set a deadline for yourself to review for maybe a week or so after that. And, just set a deadline sometime in mid-August, fairly soon after we've wrapped up these training sessions, because again, our last session is going to be a review session as well. And just set it and take it. And especially since you purchased the 3-pack, I mean, you could take it right now and see how you do and let that guide how you do the rest of your studying. And if you pass, great, like you're already done. But yeah, I would plan to set a deadline for yourself sometime in mid-August, because then you know that you're finished with it and you don't have to worry about that. And also prepping for the tasting exam.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Other questions or next question?
I have a question, Jen.
Yes.
I actually have 2. One, what's a good way to, I feel like I have a very bland vocabulary when I'm working on my score sheets. And is there how would you suggest to kind of build up that vocabulary just to make it more verbose and more colorful to paint that better picture?
I think that's a great question. So one thing, and particularly if you're someplace in like actually beer, at a beer judging competition, you'll have like 10 Kolsch's in a row. So you get sick of writing the same thing over and over again. But I would say the focusing on the intensity of what you're perceiving is a really important thing that a lot of people overlook. And so you want to, our two goals in using descriptive language are to identify what it is that we're tasting, and then also how intense it is. And that intensity part is very often overlooked. So on something like a beer judging exam, if you've got, moderate intense or like high citrus hop flavor, that intensity descriptor is going to get you extra points. That's really the difference between a recognized score and a certified score. I would say in terms of actual descriptors, one thing that people run into a lot is trying to be trying to put too much of a flourish on the descriptive language. And I know, 10 years ago, that was kind of the reputation that beer judges had, is trying very much to sound like a sommelier. And that's just a completely different perception and different kind of vocabulary because there's different ingredients. So when we're working on our descriptions, we want to make sure that we're being specific, but I had somebody use an example to me the other day of the aroma is a women's country club bathroom. And, that's evocative, but does it actually communicate anything is something completely different. So I would focus on, with our basic ingredients and going back to, I think it was week 2 when we talked about like sensory techniques and descriptive language, looking at base malt, what are your base malt flavors? Is going to be, if it's something like Pilsner, it's going to be flour or bread dough or grassy or hay. If it's roasted, it's going to be chocolate, coffee, and learning those descriptors well, and then learning, your hop flavors. So if it's German, you can say it's, if it's going to be a German hop, it's going to be spicy, floral, herbal, and those, there's a set like commonly accepted lexicon for really kind of each type of ingredient, and you can definitely get more specific. So instead of saying orange, this tastes like an orange, you can say this tastes like navel orange pulp, and get specific that way. But I would concentrate first on making sure that you're comfortable with writing the intensity, and then also writing the just your basic malt flavors, hop flavors, fermentation flavors. And that's with the score sheet, it does a good job of guiding you through what you should be noting. So as you're filling out your score sheet, just make sure, do I have a descriptor written down, at least one descriptor written down for the malt? Do I also have an intensity added there? And starting there is going to really help build your vocabulary, and kind of the teasing it apart a little bit more will come with experience.
Oh, that's good, because somebody had said like, oh, you need to be very flowery in your language. But, I think I'm very good that you've done a really good job. I'm able to dissect it, but I didn't know if I was being too mechanical in how I was doing that, and I wasn't being more verbose in what I should be doing. So that's helpful.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about the verbosity, because that's when you get into that like country club bathroom kind of descriptor, which again is evocative. But I feel like if we took a poll right now, all of us would have a different idea about what exactly that meant. So yeah, you're on the right track with being, starting out, focusing on each one of those ingredients and really working on teasing that apart, because I found that kind of the flowery language is just that, it's flowery, and it doesn't necessarily reflect an understanding of what the style should be and what the ingredients should be.
Okay. I have another follow-up if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
So on the 6 samples that we have, would we expect to get like an off flavor? Is there gonna be like one that's not, they say it's an American lager, but it's something different? And then what can we expect out of those 6 samples to see?
Yeah, I will add a note to that too. Here's the trap, because I fell into this trap as well. When you are looking at the BJCP has guides for everything. So they have guides for exam administrators, and those are available. And I think I think it's available in the members area. If it's not, I will add it. Those are good to read because it just gives you an idea of kind of the structure. Like, for example, the administrator is the person giving the exam, but then you also have proctors. And as you know, somebody who, like in college, your proctor was who was giving the exam, like learning that verbiage was really helpful. But it does say in there that for the 6 beers, you should have one that's just a world-class example. So you should have one that's a very, very good example of whatever the style is. It's typically, but not always, an actual commercial example. Not always. They can also use homebrew. Then you will have one sample that is very, very bad, obviously flawed. One thing to keep in mind, and I know we talked about this on the first week, we'll go back through all of the details of the tasting exam toward the end, but the lowest score for BJCP that you can actually give a beer is 13. So just know that's a tip going into the beer judging exam. You won't judge anything lower than a 13. I don't necessarily agree with that practice, but nobody asked me, so that's the practice. So know that you won't judge anything lower than 13, but you'll have that one really, really good beer, that one really, really bad beer. And then in between, you'll have typically a couple that are like mid 30s. So they're fine. They're good. They're not great, because then part of that skill is telling them in your feedback how they can take it from good to great. So you'll have a couple like that. And then I believe the other one will be something like, the entrant said this is an American lager, and maybe it's actually a Kolsch. Or recently when I was judging at HomebrewCon, we had an American wheat that was very obviously been made with a Weissbier strain. And so, then it's just like, no, as soon as I smell banana and clove, this is in the wrong category. And that's the feedback that you get. So something kind of like that. That is what the guidance is. The administrators don't have to follow that guidance. And I say that in part because I just took a tasting exam at the beginning of April. And in my mind, I went in like, okay, 1 good, 1 bad, 2 in the middle, one's is going to be kind of weird. And the first thing the administrator said was, don't get hung up on what the guidance is supposed to be and just judge the beer in front of you. So they don't necessarily have to follow that. But going into it, generally, yes, you're going to get one that's very obviously flawed, where it's going to be more like issue spotting, like here's all the things that are wrong with this beer, but also all the ways you can improve it. And then one that's really pretty good, where your feedback is going to say, like, this is a 44. You're not going to give something a 50. It's not going to be the most perfect version of whatever beer style it is, but maybe you give it like a 45. And in that case, you really don't have to do a ton of feedback because it's already in that upper level. So that's generally, you can expect that a couple will be in the middle. One will be obviously flawed, one will be really good. And then that other one, wait, no, that's 4. So then the other couple may be like, this is an American lager, but it's too bitter, but otherwise it's fine. And I've also had exams where like one of the styles is like very obviously flawed. So it was like they put a diacetyl spike in it. But really it can range. It's going to be up to the administrator. And I had something else to say about that and I don't remember what it was now. But yeah, that's why generally it's hard to go into it knowing that it could potentially be like this. And then what I find myself doing is trying to shoehorn beers into that and be like, well, this tastes pretty good, but is it great? Is the next one going to be the great one? Or these two both got 38. Should I adjust the score on another one? I get in my head, if you can't tell, very quickly on things like tasting exams. So really the best advice is to judge the beer in front of you and pretty much assume that the administrator maybe followed that, maybe didn't. Okay, other questions?
What is the difference between the entrance exam that you take online before the tasting and the written exam?
Great question. The written exam is so the written exam is available to you if you have scored above an 80 on the tasting exam. So when, and at the very beginning, when we went through all of the framework and all of the different structures and everything, I know that it's in there, but really when you take the tasting exam, the highest rank you'll be able to get from the tasting exam is certified. So even if, let's say, you get a 90 on the tasting exam, the highest you're going to go is certified. To get to national, you have to take the written exam. So with the written exam, that's kind of a whole different animal, but that is an hour and a half. It's 5 essay questions. And one of the things that I think the BJCP does right with the written exam is they give you the entire pool of questions that you could possibly be asked. And it's, it is a lot, but it's not insurmountable, and you can practice your questions and, bullet point and time yourself. But those questions, you have one where you write an all grain recipe, and they give you, it can be one of 12 potential beer styles. So you'll have, like, on the last one I took, which was about a year ago, my all grain recipe was a Czech premium pale lager, which was great because that's pretty much a smash beer. It's one kind of malt, one kind of hops, done. That saved a lot of time. And then you will have one question on process and one question on ingredients. So again, they give you, like, out of these 4 questions, you'll be asked one of these 4, and you will be asked verbatim one of those 4 questions. No, actually, I'm sorry. One question will be process or ingredients. Then there will be one beer flavor question. And again, they give you a list of, I think it's maybe like 15 different things that would be like phenolic, butter, cardboard. And with that essay question, they'll give you 3 of those, and you'll, write like what the cause is, where they can be found, how you can fix it, if there's any styles that it's acceptable in. And then the last 2 questions, you have to compare and contrast 3 beer styles. So it would be like Irish stout, oatmeal stout, imperial stout. And you really just make a grid and just write, like stats for each one, flavor profiles for each one. It's a lot, it's tough. And like when you take the beer judging exam, that's, 6 beers in an hour and a half. That feels like forever compared to writing 5 essay questions in an hour and a half. But yes, that was a very long-winded way of saying that the written exam, if you want to move to national or above, you have to take the written exam. And after that, you can get, once you get, whatever rank you're going for. So if, for instance, I'm working towards master, I have to get a 90 or above on my average score has to be 90 or above. And the average is 50-50 between the tasting exam and the written exam.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Next question.
Hey, Jen, this is a little more specific to the Charlotte exam in August. If we had sent a reply for interest for that, should we have already gotten something back, or is that still in the works?
That is still in the works. Okay. I can confirm for you specifically that yes, you are registered. Okay. I believe I've spoken with everybody in Charlotte and Atlanta who registered for the exam. More information will be forthcoming about that as we get closer to the exam. Like there are deadlines for when the payment has to be made to the BJCP. And I want to say that's maybe like 30 days ahead of time. So that will be forthcoming.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss something and that I should be keeping an eye out for other dates to register.
Yeah. And no, you're registered. So if you all, either through one of the emails, or I know I shared it on Discord yesterday for the Atlanta folks, if I've sent you the link to the form and you filled out the form, you're registered. But you're welcome at any time to double check with me to make sure that I have you. Charlotte exam is full. I'm on a wait list now. Nobody who is on this call is on that wait list. You're registered, you have a seat, but there is a bit of a wait list. So a couple of other things that I will point out for the Southeast people. There is also a tasting exam in Winston-Salem at the beginning of November. That one is not full. So if you have the seat for my exam, you're stuck. I'm not going to let you postpone. But also in Savannah, there is one, I believe the weekend before in September, the weekend before the one in Charlotte. So if Savannah is something that may be more accessible to you, or you're going to be there, there's also an exam there that you can contact the administrator and register for that. And I think most of you have probably seen in the weekly emails, I went through a couple of weeks ago and updated a whole bunch of tasting exams got approved and put on the calendar. So that has been updated at least through a couple of weeks ago. So if you haven't looked at that recently, please go back and look, and don't think about it. Don't wonder if you're going to be ready. I'm telling you, you're going to be ready. Just email the administrator and get a seat.
Awesome. Thank you.
You are welcome. All right, next question. All right, well, I will go and I will go over the question that got submitted. And as you have more questions, feel free to ask them. If you want, put it in the chat. I've got the chat pulled up this time, so I can do that because I'm not trying to like manage PowerPoints and Zoom and chat. But so the question that I received was what I found the most useful for studying. So the first thing, obviously is going to be the BJCP guidelines, just reading through those. And what I love, and I know I've mentioned this before, but what I really love about the BJCP is there are so many, they put so much information out that's free. That's why I think it's a really great supplement to something like Cicerone, which is very expensive. And one of the things that I have found the most helpful, and this is in our resources section, and you can tell because like my guidelines, this is like super gross and like grimy because I use it all the time, but this is the score sheet guide. So they originally put out the score sheet guide as guidance for judges or for graders judging beer judging exams, but it is absolutely fantastic for those of us who are preparing or have prepared for BJCP tasting exam, because it tells you exactly how the exam is graded and how the points are allocated where. And that one I discovered that I think like 2 days before I was taking the tasting exam for the second time. And it was so helpful for me because going in the first time, I knew I was there to take the exam. I knew the 6 beers in 90 minutes, but I didn't know exactly how things were graded or what they were looking for. In the first week that we did the BJCP overview, we talked about the tasting exam. In those slides as well, I have broken down the information in the score sheet guide into different slides. So it's super helpful because, and it goes back to the question that Rachel had as well. They will say for national level, for aroma, you should have 4 intensity descriptors. You should have 6, it's not quite that many, but you should have like 3 descriptors for malt and 2 descriptors for hops or whatever it says specifically in there. But that's a really great guide, because then when you're writing down your descriptions, it also helps you remember that I should say like moderate bread dough, something like that. And it breaks all of those down, how many you need. Again, use it as a guide, and don't get too caught up in making sure that you're getting every single thing right, or that you're like ticking all of those boxes, because the whole point is for you to be building your palette and building your evaluation skills. So don't get too caught up in just trying to get the score sheet right. But it will also tell you there are like 20 points for each score sheet is on basically on like, I don't think bookkeeping is quite the right word, but it's how many points if you wrote legibly, if you wrote a score on each one of the things, on each one of the sections. If we add up the score you wrote on each section, you get points for if you added that up correctly. You get points if you have fewer than 2 empty lines on each for each descriptor, and just all sorts of things like that. Do you have like at least 7 words per line, you get points. So they have all these things set up to make sure that 1, you're writing legibly, and 2, you're not like, this was very good. And you're like, there, I filled out all of the lines. So you get points for like vertical space, horizontal space, if you're writing legibly, if you filled out the bottom part that says like this, like excellent, very good, good, poor, or fair, poor. And then if you've checked those 3 other, I think it's like intangibles, technical style, and then like whatever the other one is, I don't remember off the top of my head, like overall drinkability or something, like you get points for that. And so that's very easy. If you know that you're getting 20 points per score sheet on just doing those really simple things, that's the easiest 20 points you're going to get. So the score sheet guide is one of my most helpful resources because it tells you exactly how you're going to be scored. Other ones besides, I mean, really that plus the guidelines is going to get you really far. The other one that I have that is also on the website is the BJCP study guide. So within that as well, there's good information for what the online exam will consist of. And then the Al Boyce's BJCP exam for dummies, the 2019 version, that's actually not published anywhere. I had emailed him about an older version and he sent me a new version and said like, yeah, totally share this with the women doing the beer judge training. So there's a newer version, but he does a really great job too of walking through what the breakdown of questions will be for the online exam. The only caveat I see to that when I was looking at it, it's been several years since I've taken the online exam, so I don't remember exactly how everything was worded, but I did notice that the way he has it broken down seems like he's using the 2008 style guidelines. So like the categories are just a little bit different. So I use that as a guide, understand that it may not be the most up to date. So again, kind of like the score sheet guide, definitely use it, have it there to kind of frame how you're approaching the exam, but don't take it as law. And I'm going to go in and have 8 questions about wheat beers and 3 questions about strong ales, because that may have shuffled around a bit. And that's just, I'm not sure if that's the case or not. So those are really the 3 resources that I found to be the most helpful. They're all free. They're all available in the members area. They're also available on the BJCP website. So what other kinds of questions do you all have?
Yeah, Jen, I had a question kind of specific to beer styles. So I think you had kind of mentioned, I don't know, there's like the fruit beer category, things like that. And then like with like hazy IPAs and things like that, would we see anything like that on the exam or no? You think? Okay.
Good question. So the one thing about hazy IPA, this is one of the little like things about the BJCP is the BJCP does have a category for New England IPA. It's 21B New England IPA. It's not, so they added that I think in 2018. They didn't add it to the BJCP like guidelines, the hard copy. If you have the app, and I have the one for Apple. So when I open the style guidelines, I don't even know if you'll be able to see this, but you have to go way down, all the way down to the very bottom where they have the provisional styles. And that's where you'll find it.
Gotcha.
It's there somewhere. I'm trying to point at it, but it's, yes. So it is 21B, is on the app, is at the very, very bottom under provisional styles. And then to find it, you can find the full score sheet or the full guideline on the BJCP website. I don't know where. When I need to find it, I just Google 2015 BJCP guidelines, New England IPA, and it takes me to whatever weird ass spot on the BJCP website that they put it. But the full guideline is available on the BJCP website. When it comes to the fruit beers, the wild fermentations, let me find this. So again, the administrators are not supposed to give you any beers from style category 27, which is historical beer, 28, which is American wild ale, 29, which is fruit beer, 30 is spiced beer, 31 alternative fermentables, 32 smoked, 33 wood, 34 specialty. Yeah, so 27 categories 27 through 34. They're not supposed to give you beers from those categories. Now, if you're taking this for Cicerone related things, and even if you're not, if you're studying for the BJCP, you don't need to know it for the exam. Be a well-rounded beer judge and read through those anyway, but know that you shouldn't see those on the beer tasting exam. But for Cicerone, whatever level of Cicerone you're studying for, they give you those lists of what beers you might be asked about. So definitely look them over. And most of them are really, what you'll see is if you click into something like a fruit beer or a classic style smoked beer, you're supposed to evaluate the base style, so whatever the stated base style is, and then evaluate whatever that extra character is and how they work well together. As new beer judges, so I'll tell you two things. As new beer judges, it is highly likely that you're going to end up judging categories like fruit beer, like spice urban vegetable beer, IPAs, because as myself, as an experienced judge, the first thing I do when I register to judge an exam is say, I will not judge those styles. Even as a new judge, and this is like secret bonus information for all of you, even as a new judge, when you register, you are given the option to select 3 categories that you would like to judge and 3 categories that you don't want to judge. Doing those isn't a promise either way. So I always say I don't judge IPAs, I don't judge fruit beers, I don't judge spice beers. Sometimes when you get to a competition, they need judges someplace, and I'm not going to be a jerk about it. I'll judge wherever they need me to. But just know if there's a particular style that you don't think you could be a fair judge on, or, really with fruit beers specifically, I stopped. I said, I'm not judging fruit beers anymore because, again, as a woman, I would often end up on fruit beers. And one time I was told it was because women like fruit beers. So after that, I started saying I don't do fruit beers. But yeah, so when you go to register to judge, you do have that option to say you don't want to judge certain styles. With things like IPAs, I still judge those a lot. And, most competition, the IPA categories have the most entries. And again, I'm not going to be a jerk, so I'll help out wherever they need me. But particularly with IPAs, your palate gets wrecked really early on. And the first time I judged IPAs was at the North Carolina Brewers Cup. And the rest of the day, it was kind of like when you get your pupils dilated and you have to wear sunglasses and everything's weird. The rest of the day, on the way home, I was just my tongue just hurts, and it the rest of the day for my palate to feel normal. That was a bit of a digression and not exactly what you asked, Ashley, but yes, the fruit beers, smoked, spice, all of those, you should not see those on your beer judging exam.
Okay, no, that's great, because I would say there's probably not a lot of smoked beer styles coming out of Yakima, Washington and things like that. So
yeah,
plenty of IPA, but so yeah, but no, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. And another reason behind why you won't have that on your exam is because, again, you're really evaluating at least 2 things. So you're evaluating the base style and whether the base style is a good representation, and then you're evaluating whatever that added thing is. So if it's, you know, a Gosa with raspberries added, first you have to evaluate the Gosa, then you're evaluating how the raspberries do with that. So for a beer judging exam, that's not really fair when you have 6 beers in 90 minutes to essentially ask you to judge 2 beers as one.
Okay.
So basically we have to be very versed in categories 1 to 26.
Yes.
Okay. For the exam, the 12 people or how many people are taking it, they all get in the room together, sit apart, I will assume, and then everybody gets their own little samples with their cheats, and you are sit down to like just do your thing for 90 minutes and then be out, right?
Yes, good question. So the way it works is, so everybody will be there at their own tables. When you get there, you should already have stations set up. So you should have all of the score sheets that you need. You should have your water, your crackers, your pencils. I believe you can bring, I now own a 4-function calculator that I bought at a CVS on my way into an exam. The one I was at recently, the administrator was just like, yeah, if you need to use your phone to use your calculator app, go ahead. I'm not a super big fan of that. I would prefer either to just add it up in your head or bring a 4-function calculator. Some exams will have 4-function calculators for you, but you should have all of that. And then what happens is you get 1 beer every 15 minutes. So, you know, the exam starts when you get your first beer, everybody gets the same beers in the same order. So, you know, the administrator will bring out the first beer and be like, this is, you know, 21A American IPA. And then you have at the 15-minute point, everybody gets the second beer, and it keeps going like that until the end. You don't have to, like, as soon as you get your second beer, you don't have to like immediately stop what you're doing and go to the second beer. You know, you'll have all of your samples in front of you as the exam goes on. The best practice is to try to have your score sheet finished in 15 minutes. So when you get that next beer, you're ready to just move on to it. That doesn't, you know, even like the one I took in April, I had a couple of times where I was finishing up my score sheet when the next beer came out, which always kind of gets you a little panicky because you don't want to feel like you're behind, but just aim to have your score sheet finished within that 15 minutes. So you're ready for that next beer when it comes. And then they should typically also, not that you will need it, but if you need more of any sample, they'll be able to give you more of that sample. All right, next question.
I have another question for you, Jen. So if you like describe something as like toasty, molasses, and caramel, but like the consensus for, I don't know what they call the people who are doing the judging, is just caramel. Do you get ding points for saying perceptions that aren't there?
No. So the way it's broken down is you will get one of the 5 categories is perception. And so that perception is how closely does your score match what the proctor's consensus score was. So you do get graded for that. And then after that, the next part of it is the grader will pull together basically like 8 to 10 descriptors from the proctors to say, and then also like use the guidelines and what the proctors say. So let's say we've got an American Pale Ale, then I would say like, okay, most of the proctors said like high, American hop, citrus, grapefruit character. So I would write that as like, these are the main descriptions. These are the best way to describe this beer, and then compare the score sheets of people who took the test against that. So if you had something like caramel and toasty, and I forgot what your other descriptor was, but you won't be like, you'll get a point for the, using the same kind of description, but generally it's like if you say husky and somebody else says grainy, you're basically talking about the same thing, so you won't get dinged for it. So that's the two, like the first two sections, you're graded against what the proctor said, what other people who took the test said. The rest of the sections, even if you got everything completely wrong, so if you have this American Pale Ale in front of you and you say that it's toasty and it's caramel and it's got chocolate in it, and you describe it completely wrong, but you're still using good descriptors, then you will get points for that. So that you're not going to get just like a 0. If you say like, this is high roasty chocolate, dark malt, you will still get some points for that because you're still describing what your perception is. So yeah, that's kind of an involved answer, but the BJCP is very intricate in that way. And in the score sheet guide, they walk through that also of how that's graded. Okay, so I had one other question come in while we were here. How do you recommend acknowledging allergies or intolerance like lactose when applying to judge a competition? In your experience, how likely am I to be presented with a beer with lactose for the tasting exam? I would let the people know when you're registering if you have an allergy, if you have lactose intolerance, because with lactose specifically, if you get a sweet stout, it's going to have lactose in it. If you get something like a New England IPA, it could very potentially have lactose in it. So I would contact the administrator and let them know ahead of time that you have those allergies and the allergy or some kind of dietary restriction. So for instance, I'm vegetarian. When I apply, I'm like, I don't give me an oyster stout if it actually has oysters in it, which is actually incorrect. It should not, but stuff like that. Luckily, I don't run into too many like meat beers, but every once in a while you find somebody who's made an Irish stout with oysters or with oyster shells. And I just don't judge those, but I just let people know ahead of time. So when you register for the exam, if you have an intolerance, if you have a sensitivity, if you have some sort of allergy, let them know. It's not a big deal to just not, you only have to have 6 beers. It's not a big deal to just not have that beer and serve something else.
Jen?
Yes.
What are the main things that you see that people tend to, get mixed up on, like the main common things that you see throughout your time, teaching people and judging?
So actually tomorrow I'm judging like my first official set of tasting exams, and I'm kind of excited about it. I think that's probably like new judge excitement or new grader excitement, but some things that I think I commonly see are mixing up bitterness with astringency and vice versa. That's really only applicable in situations when you do have something that's like very husky or has a lot of roasted malt in it. But those perceptions, and I've tried to explain it succinctly to people before, and I really can't. But like what is the difference between bitterness and astringency? And it is nuance. But generally, bitterness should be in every beer. And as you get more experience with perceiving, with evaluating and writing it down, you'll start to understand the difference between bitterness and astringency. I think that one is common. I think not. So there's two flip sides, not being specific enough when you do have the tools in your toolbox to be more specific. And on the flip side of that is being too specific. So I think I've shared before, being at a judging and overhearing somebody say that a beer smelled like a Barbie doll's armpit. And like, as somebody who used to play with Barbie dolls, I know what that smell is. As somebody who's reading that score sheet, they probably don't. And again, that's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, right? With trying to be evocative, but still actually convey information. What I know that now, if I was smelling that, what I would infer is that there was probably a Brettanomyces infection. So I could say like, this is a Brettanomyces infection, not Barbie doll's armpit. So, I think that is kind of walking that line between being evocative and like being cute about it, because you know, people enter competitions for a lot of different reasons, but they're paying money. They want good feedback. They want actionable feedback. Not everybody enters beers into competitions because they think that they're the best beers in the world and they're going to win. A lot of people enter beers because they know they need to work on their process, but they don't know how, or they know that there's something just not right about their beer. But when they go to their homebrew club, everybody drinks it and says, oh yeah, no, this is really good. And they're not getting real feedback. So making sure that you're giving evocative, descriptive language that's not, that again, that is actually communicating something. And then one thing that I see often actually in more experienced judges that drives me crazy is not leaving feedback for how to improve. I've spoken with several like national and above judges who are like, well, they can just Google acetaldehyde if they want to know how to get rid of it. And that's a really shitty answer. Like don't ever do that as a judge. Make sure you're giving people actionable feedback, because they're relying on that, in part. And as a judge, that's part of like if you're refusing to tell people how to make their beer better, you're not doing the entire part of the judging process. So making sure that you're leaving constructive feedback. I would say that would just be maybe one other thing that I see people do a lot. I've seen somebody fill out a score sheet where on the overall impression, the only thing they wrote was eek. Like, we're not out to hurt people's feelings or crush spirits. We're out to give constructive criticism and feedback for improvement. So make sure that you're doing that. I don't think we'll probably have an issue with anybody in this group doing something like that. But yeah, as the more I talked, the more I was like, and another thing, here's something else I hate. But I think those are probably the main ones is, switching up things like astringency and bitterness. That will come with experience. Not being evocative enough, or being too evocative, or just like weird descriptions that people aren't going to understand. And then not leaving any kind of feedback at all, and or leaving just like being a jerk on your score sheets. I think those are really the main things to avoid as a beer judge.
Thank you. And the
Yeah.
last thing, does spelling count?
I think if you can, I think as much as possible, as clearly as you can communicate, the better. But people will be able to figure out hopefully people will be able to figure out, what you're communicating. But yeah, I mean, if we're talking about like the beer judging exam, I don't know that they would necessarily, you might lose points in that one, like kind of bookkeeping section on like, how clear is it? But I wouldn't get too caught up on that, because as long as people can tell, like, again, even the people judging the beer judging exams, they're not out to be jerks. They want you to succeed. They want you to give you as many points as possible. So if, Britannomyces isn't spelled correctly, like, you're not going to get dinged so hard that it's going to like truly affect what your score is. Okay, it looks like we have time for maybe one more question. If anybody has one.
I do.
Yes, go for it.
The comparison sheets or comparative sheet that BJCP has between the styles and all that, is that a good strategy to study as well, or to like taste some of, because I have seen that they would say, oh, take these 4 different beers and like judge them next to each other and like kind of learn what difference them. That's my question.
I think that's good if I think for the entry level, or like the first time you're taking the beer judging exam, definitely if you feel comfortable doing that, I think that won't be the very best use of your time for the first time you take the beer judging exam. Like I started doing tastings like that when I was studying for the advanced Cicerone. So it's more of like if you're going for national and above, then I would recommend doing that. But even within the BJCP with the beer tasting exam or the beer judging exam, you're mostly graded on your ability to communicate and, you know, communicate that descriptive language well. So, you know, the other thing that, like, let's say you go into a beer judging exam and they say that this is a foreign extra stout, they're probably not going to give you like a tropical stout instead, because those are incrementally different from each other. So they may say this is a foreign extra stout and maybe give you like an Irish stout, right? Something that's completely different, or like saying that this is an imperial stout, but really what you're getting is an Irish stout. You may see something like that. So I would say if you want to more as an academic exercise to learn for yourself the difference between the styles, those beer style comparison sheets are great. And I think I uploaded the one that I made is in the members area. I made that when I was studying for the advanced, but it is good. Let's say you're doing the certified Cicerone, you know, in the style discrimination section of your tasting exam, you'll be given a sample and you'll be asked, is this an imperial stout or an Irish stout? So that, I think that comparison sheet is a good use for that, of maybe not all four, but maybe you take two and, you know, and you say like, okay, we'll do strong bitter and Belgian pale ale, and I'll sit down and I'll learn the difference between the two. That's always going to be good from, you know, an academic point of view in terms of improving your palate and understanding truly the difference between beer styles. But I wouldn't worry about that until you've got a lock on filling out a score sheet and filling it out within 15 minutes and getting all of those points and all of the descriptors you can. All right, well, we are at 8:31. So next week we are back. We are looking at British beer styles. So I get to stop saying spicy, herbal, and floral at quite as much. And then I'll get sick of saying like the same other descriptors for some other things. So we've got, I don't remember exactly where we're starting, but I think we're starting with the bitters and maybe the Commonwealth beers. So we'll be moving out for the most part of lagers and Germany and into a completely different set. But if you have any other questions, you can always submit those through the submit a question on the website in the members area, or you can just email me directly. Either one is fine. They both go to my email inbox. Make sure that you check the events calendar and register for a tasting exam near you. Just do it. Don't think about it. Just register for it because you'll be ready. And I will also be working on getting some more judging opportunities up on the event sheet, but also know that you can go to the BJCP page, and navigating to the competition calendar is quite a bit easier than really finding anything else. So if you're looking for judging opportunities near you, please check that out. I will try to get those up on the events page. There's just a ton more of those than there are of things like exams, but check those out near you and sign up, start judging. And thank you everyone also for if you're on the Discord. I really enjoy that. I enjoy seeing you all interact with each other as you do things like go out and, you know, and judge beer in competitions. I love seeing you share what your experiences are. And I love that so many of you are having such positive experiences. I think that's absolutely wonderful. So with that, I will stop talking at you again. And I hope you all have a great rest of your night and a great week, and happy practice beer judging.